For centuries, Halloween night has been a night of terror, a night of pranks, a night filled with witches, warlocks, and demons. It's the one night of the year that always brings out the Boogeyman. Why do residents of this area especially fear Halloween night? Because here in Waterbury, Connecticut, and the surrounding areas, the Boogeyman actually exists. Every Halloween night from the year 1901 to present day, one child disappears. Sometimes the body is found a few days later, and sometimes the child never turns up. Last year, Mark Lavoie, a 10-year-old boy from Naugatuck, Connecticut, disappeared on Halloween night. They found his body 4 days later, with his tongue ripped from his head. Many area residents believe they know who this child killer is, and there's nothing they can do about it. You see, this Boogeyman, this real-life killer, was hung by the neck until dead in 1922.
Lawrence Grossman was born in Waterbury, Connecticut on January 3, 1880, to Ivan and Lydia Stein Grossman. Ivan, the father, was employed by Scoville Manufacturing when the company formed a subdivision called Ansco. Ivan was promoted to a high-salaried position and bought a house for his family on Grove Street. It was here that Ivan and Lydia raised Lawrence and his two younger brothers, David and Ivan Jr. Lawrence attended area schools and was, according to records and fellow classmates, a very good student and a friendly, outgoing boy. After finishing school, Lawrence joined his father at Scoville. He began working in the machine shop and, according to executives at Ansco, had the talent and intelligence to become an executive himself in a short time. In February 1900, at age 20, a terrible accident occurred that would change the lives of the Grossmans forever. An assembly line device caught the bottom of Lawrence's apron, and he was pulled into the machine. Before the device could be shut down, Lawrence was badly mangled. His face was torn apart, 4 fingers were ripped off, and he was bleeding profusely. Lawrence remained unconscious for 3 days, and doctors were uncertain about his survival. Miraculously, Lawrence regained consciousness, although his left side was partially paralyzed and, according to Dr. William Macy, the attending physician, had a very diminished mental capacity. Due to these facts, Lawrence was not allowed to return to Scoville and completed his slow recovery under the care of his mother, Lydia. 2 months later, Lawrence returned home missing 4 fingers, with a very noticeable limp and a hideously scarred face. Once a handsome young man with a promising future, Lawrence was reduced to a frightening figure that terrified school children. When Lawrence would go out walking, he endured people mimicking his unique walk, teasing from cold-hearted teens, and children fleeing in terror. Lawrence ventured out less and less, and his mother Lydia became even more doting. Lawrence sank into a major depression over his new handicaps and could not deal with the taunting. In 1901, a year later, Scoville awarded a large sum of money to Lawrence in restitution. Lawrence, now 21, purchased a house on Kellogg Street despite his mother's protests. Lawrence needed to be left alone, and after settling into his new home, very rarely ventured out. It was on October 31st of that year the first child disappeared. Randall Hayes, age 10, was reported missing on Halloween night. 3 days later, on November 3rd, his lifeless body was discovered by school children in the woods near Fulton Park. According to the newspaper account, little Randall Hayes was strangled and thrown face down in a pile of leaves which partially covered his body. The newspaper reported that no visible clues were found, and they offered a reward for information leading to the arrest of the killer. 3 more days passed, no suspect was found, and 10-year-old Randall Hayes was buried. The following year, on Halloween night, 1902, 9-year-old Laura Platt was reported missing. Her body was never recovered. In 1903, on October 31st, 11-year-old Mitchell Arlen was reported missing by his parents, and a week later turned up in the woods near Waterville. The newspaper, again, offered a reward, and surrounding area police departments came into town and offered their help. Again, no information, no clues, and no motive.
Although the murders first started in 1901, it wasn't until 1904 when the police really started to take notice. At this time, they added additional security on Halloween night, started awareness campaigns that parents should be more concerned of their children's protection on Halloween night. And even with all this added security, it didn't stop the murders from taking place. Every subsequent year, from 1904 to 1921, a child turned up missing.
Did they find all the missing children at that time?
No, they didn't. Some were found days later, some were never found.
Finally, on October 31st, in 1922, as Joseph and Betty Brown were just finishing supper, they heard loud banging on their front door. Joe ran to the door, and as he opened it, a 12-year-old boy, Jimmy Menders, fell at Joe's feet, blood streaming from his mouth. Hugging Joe Brown's knees, Jimmy began hysterically screaming for help. Betty Brown ran over and comforted the boy as Joe went to get police and Jimmy's parents. When Joe returned, Jimmy was a bit calmer and began to tell his incredible story.
Jimmy Menders was out trick-or-treating with his friends on Halloween night. When he started to lag behind, he may have been checking for his candy, but it was at this point where he was grabbed and dragged into the woods, hand